A shadowy figure cloaked in secrecy has long been ignored. Today, we discuss Hitler's last hope, who happened to be the most brutal Nazi commander. Here emerges Dr. Hans Kammler, the true architect of World War II's most diabolical technological advancements. From orchestrating a deathly symphony using cutting-edge engineering to displaying demonic ruthlessness, this man changed the tides of war. It's no surprise that the SS-Obergruppenführer responsible for the Nazi civil engineering project was Hitler's right-hand man. Kammler joined the Nazi Party in 1931, and after the Nazi regime took power in 1933, he occupied a number of administrative jobs. Then he slowly rose through the ranks, and therein his sly genius became obvious. To him, exploiting modern organizational principles to advance the Nazi cause was the path to victory. You won't believe the extent to which Dr. Hans Kammler went to support Hitler's war machine. After the Royal Air Force bombed the Peenemünde rocket facilities in 1943, the V-2 rocket production had to pick up its pace. Hitler was on board, and who did they tap for this monumental task? Kammler. The V-2 rocket, perhaps Hans's most famous achievement, was an engineering wonder. It was the first long-range guided ballistic missile capable of launching at supersonic speeds and reaching targets over 300 kilometers away. This guy was the SS construction chief, and he spearheaded the whole operation. They set up shop in a massive fuel storage spot in Thuringia. By late 1943, Kammler had a bunch of Buchenwald concentration camp inmates working on the underground site. And get this, Kammler had both the Messerschmitt Me 262 and the V2 in production by the end of 1943. He was in charge of the creation of the Messerschmitt Me 262, the world's first operational jet-powered fighter plane. This groundbreaking aircraft gave Germany an unrivaled technological advantage in air combat. Its greater speed and maneuverability challenged the Allies' aerial dominance, laying the groundwork for subsequent generations of fighter jets. But it wasn't a walk in the park. Those tunnels and weapons were built in awful conditions, all thanks to the forced laborers from Mittelbau-Dora. Shockingly, around 10,000 people died producing the V2 alone. That's double the number killed by the weapon system in Britain and Belgium combined. Over 20,000 lost their lives in total at Mittelbau-Dora. Kammler's attitude? Cold as ice. To him, the victims didn't matter. His primary focus was on just getting the work done, regardless of how many people died in the process. Eager to climb the ladder, in March 1944, Kammler made a move that shook things up. He had himself as the big shot in charge of special buildings in the fighter aircraft program. That catapulted him to one of the war economy's top dogs, and it made him invincible and free of supervision. Then, in March 1944, Himmler managed to convince Hitler to put the V2 project directly under SS control, and he took the reins on August 8th, replacing Walter Dornberger. They launched the first rockets near The Hague on September 8th, 1944. But by January 1945, they were running out of explosives, and the program was winding down. In March 1945, Hitler took away Göring's power over aircraft support, maintenance and supply, and handed it all to Kammler. By early April, Kammler was hailed as the Führer's general plenipotentiary for jet aircraft. Now, that's one guy who had his hands full. Except, more projects were underway that breathed life into Hitler's plans. He now believed that these wonder weapons would help Germany win the war. There was no denying his influence was felt in a variety of experimental propulsion designs. His efforts investigated novel engine designs, including rocket engines and turbojet technology, pushing the limits of what was previously thought achievable in aviation and missile research. And he also played a key role in the development of enormous underground facilities, ranging from covert research labs to full production complexes. These reinforced bunkers and facilities provided a safe environment for research development and manufacturing, insulating them from Allied bombing campaigns. On a more shocking note, German scientists and engineers were even working on supersonic and hypersonic flight research under Kammler's direction. While several initiatives remained experimental, this research laid the groundwork for future advances in high-speed aircraft and space exploration. He was the linchpin in the war against the world, and Hitler was sure that they'd continue to stand tall. Hitler had understood Kammler's potential, and as their enemies closed in, he was trying his best to leave crucial managerial decisions in Hans's hands. What stood out to Hitler was Kammler's exceptional organizational skills. They were evident in his ability to coordinate complex projects involving a multitude of moving parts. His talent for efficiently allocating resources, managing timelines, and overseeing teams allowed him to navigate the challenges inherent in large-scale technological endeavors. As a high-ranking SS officer, Kammler wielded significant authority within the Nazi regime. This allowed him to exercise control over resources, personnel, and facilities critical to his projects. His position enabled him to allocate resources in a way that prioritized the advancement of advanced weaponry. Not to mention, Kammler's skill to keep his ideas under wraps was critical to their success. He operated with caution, allowing him to keep details private even from other high-ranking officials. This kept his endeavors safe from undue interference or premature revelation. And Hans's friendship with Adolf Hitler spoke to his power. His direct connection to the Führer enabled him to personally express his goals and ideas. This direct line of communication avoided bureaucratic channels, potentially speeding up decision-making and ensuring Kammler's efforts received top-level consideration. Except it wasn't just his engineering powers that propelled Kammler to the top. He was, in fact, standing tall on a lot of corpses. In June 1941, Hans joined the Waffen-SS, reflecting his determination to increase SS construction activities. Kammler was reassigned as an advisor in the Reichskommissariat for the reinforcement of Germandom in order to capitalize on his technical and managerial abilities. According to Michael Thad Allen, it was unbelievable that such a man could be so technologically savvy and yet be an extreme Nazi fanatic. Even Hitler's senior architect Albert Speer came to fear Kammler, classifying him as one of Himmler's most brutal and ruthless henchmen. Kammler was relentless when it came to judging his subordinates' educational backgrounds and ideological commitment to National Socialism, which determined their responsibilities and promotion. So once Kammler landed his gig at the SS Main Economic and Administrative Office, he wasted no time. He became Oswald Pohl's right-hand man, and together they formed quite the team. But here's the shocking part. Kammler also got a promotion, and his new job included designing and building concentration and extermination camps. In a move that would send shivers down your spine, on September 26, 1941, Kammler issued orders to kickstart the construction of Auschwitz. This wasn't some long-term plan, it was just days after they announced the equally horrifying project at Majdanek. But here's where it gets downright chilling. The mass deportation of Jews to Auschwitz started in late March 1942, with Kammler overseeing it all. He wasn't just sitting back either. Nope, he was hands-on. He made sure they installed super-efficient cremation setups at Auschwitz-Birkenau as it transitioned into a full-blown extermination camp. Under Kammler's eagle eye, they even drew up plans in August 1942 for a brand new crematorium at Birkenau. The ultimate plan? These facilities were supposed to burn up to 120,000 corpses per month. With such a taste for death and power, Hans Kammler was shaping the very fabric of the war taking place. Even when the tides of victory came to a sudden halt, his antics didn't end. In a horrifying turn of events in late March 1945, Kammler's dark inclinations took an even more sinister turn. Fueled by a twisted sense of revenge, he issued a chilling directive to the ZV Division, responsible for handling the V-2 rockets. This order, delivered in stark German, was nothing short of a death sentence. Around 200 innocent men, women, and children who were already subjected to forced labor were now marked for execution. The trigger for this monstrous act? Kammler's impatience stemmed from a minor delay caused by a congested road in the Sauerland region that held up his car. It was reported that Kammler, in his distorted perception of a vague threat, casually deemed this group as expendable, declaring that this riffraff ought to be eliminated. This unspeakable atrocity unfolded alongside the hurried evacuation of V2 units as the relentless advance of the Allied forces into Germany closed in. As World War II was hurtling towards its end, Kammler's actions took a dark and puzzling turn. After his erratic Arnsberg Forest massacre, matters were all over the place. On April 1st, he sent 500 missile technicians packing to the Nazis' Alpine fortress. Then, on April 5th, he was handed the job of defending the Nordhausen area. Then in April 1945, as World War II was nearing its conclusion, a dramatic turn of events unfolded. The Royal Air Force launched a daring assassination attempt aimed at high-ranking Nazi officials, including Adolf. Kammler miraculously escaped, but he knew the end was near. Next, things got even murkier. Late April or early May, Kammler was supposedly at Villa Mendelssohn in Abency, a site under his watch. Then on May 4th, he out of the blue ordered Abency office to pack up and move to Prague. Now, here's where it gets even more chilling. The true story of Kammler's end is still a mystery. His driver said he passed away around May 10, 1945, while an aide claimed it was on May 7th. His driver and staff all claimed that Hans had either killed himself by poisoning or by shooting himself. His wife backed up the accounts of eyewitnesses, tried to put an end to the twisted tale of Hans Kammler, and fought to have him declared dead. Of course, the story doesn't end there. Many believe that he fled to Prague and continued to stay on the road to avoid being found. To skeptics, he went on to live well into old age. Regardless, the pursuit of the ghost of this commander continues to this day. Of course, the US report having captured and questioned him in 1945, but that is up for debate. Many suspect that even if he was captured, he still managed to escape their grasp and lived in hiding. The question remains, will history forget Hitler's right-hand man who was never tried for his deadly sins?